Now look at this layout, right? Um, I believe this looks like a dashboard. If I'm not mistaken, it looks like a dashboard where you have the header and then we have the sidebar. If for example, YouTube page, this sidebar you have things like home, I think videos, watch later, maybe trends, then subscribers, right? And then on this main section, you can have the video, maybe the first video, the second video, the third video, then videos like that, and then you have the footer. So you can actually create a layout like that, and then you fill up each of the components. So we have the header component, we have the sidebar component, we have the main component, we have the footer component. All right. So let's see how we can build a simple layout. So quickly, I'm going to create a document, then name it layout1.html, and so I'll be using the internal CSS. Okay, I don't know, it doesn't want to come up. I'll just type it out. Please, because of time, I'm just going to. Oh no, do I really want to use this page? Nope, I don't want to use this right now. Alright, so I'll just take it back. Out one HTML, and then dump the markup right here, and then change this guy to the layout one. Alright. So first, when you see a layout like this, or if you haven't given a layout like this, say for instance, a product designer that is the UI UX designer actually come up with a layout which is very simple, just like what we have on the right now, right? So you have to think about how you can build this layout. And one thing I used to do is I will first identify the number of rows and columns that we have on this layout. So you can tell that, okay, we have 1, 2, 3 rows. So which means you have 3 tracks along the horizontal axis, right? The first track, the second one, and then the third one. Then for the vertical axis, you can actually tell that we have 2, right? We have 2. The first one here, 1, and then the second one along the vertical axis. So the moment you are able to identify the number of rows and columns that you have in a particular layout, then you can now start writing your grid or start your markup and then your CSS. So what I'm going to do is that in my HTML, I'm going to create a section. You can have a section if you want. Now we need this be container. Doesn't have to be container though. And right in the section, let me take it back to the design. What I need is I need the header, I need the aside, I need the main, and then the footer. So header, aside, main, and footer. Then we have the HTML5 semantic tag, right? Header. So I'll just name this header. We also have the side tag, which is the sidebar. And the main component, our main, and then finally we have the footer. Footer, very simple. So let's load it quickly. Layout 1. Layout 1, great. So right in the internal CSS, say style. Or maybe we should just ignore the default style and just jump straight to the grid. So I'm not going to set the margin and padding to 0, just jump straight since this is just a simple layout and just to demonstrate how grid works. All right, so quickly I will is there a background? Is there any background going on here? Okay, no background actually. No problem, no problem. So say header should have, I'll just come up with some random backgrounds here. Header should have orange background, right? And then aside should have Georgia blue. Okay. Then on the main axis, the main components, we have, what color can we use? Maybe aqua. It's just for us to see the different elements that we have in the background as well. For footer, maybe we should repeat the orange, same color as the header. Background color. Say, let's see. Okay, great. And next up, I'm going to make the container height 100 pixel, 100 viewport height, so 100 VH, right? So nothing is going to change right now. So quickly, let's start our grid. So we have those 4 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we actually want to make this section with the class name of container a grid container, right? And to do that, we set this property to grid, great. And we already know what's going to happen to our grid items, right? So they are going to stretch to occupy the full height of their container or the grid container. Okay, so now let's take it back to what the layout that we actually want to implement. So again, we have 3 tracks along the horizontal axis, track 1, track 2, track 3, and then 2 tracks along the vertical axis. So which means I can actually say for this one, for the first track along the horizontal axis, I can set the size to maybe 100 or 150 pixels, right? And then same thing for footer, because I feel they have the same size. Then I can now use one FR. Remember, FR ensures that there are no unused space, right, in our design. So let's go ahead. So just for us to see what's going on, right, permits me to set a background color on the container, that's the grid container. So I will set a background be a dark background. Maybe after the design we're going to remove it. I just want to see what's going on actually. So it's not changing. What's happening? Oh yes, we are not going to see it actually. This white space here, it as a result of the default, the margin I was talking about, which is why we usually write our universal selector. So as can this white space here is as a result of the default browser styles, the margin and padding actually. So if I go back to my CSS and see universal selector, so I'm just going to pick that from here. Not repeat myself, and then dump it here in our layout 1 document and save. So it's going to close up. You're not going to see it actually. Great. But anyways, our container still have the dark background. So now container is now a grid container. This element here is a grid container, right? So let's now specify maybe we should start with the vertical axis, right? Let's start with the vertical axis here and here. So we have 2 tracks. So I can actually make this maybe 300. Okay, 300. Let's try it first. So grid. So it's going to be grid for vertical axis. It's going to be grid template columns. All right. So let's see, 300 pixels and 450 pixels. Let's see what is going on first. Save. Okay, great. But we don't want any unused space. So we have succeeded to actually have what, two tracks along the vertical axis, but we don't want unused space. So to achieve that without any error or without any calculation on our end, you can simply set the second size for the track, right, to 1 FR, that's one fraction. Then refresh. So it's going to occupy the remaining space that we have. All right. So the next thing we're going to do now is the track along the horizontal axis. So we need 3 tracks, 1, 2, 3. So I mentioned I would like, maybe this is maybe I think 100 pixels thereabouts, and then this one to same size. So we're just going to play around with the value. It's going to be grid templates rows. Let's say 100 pixels. I'll just make the second one 250, for instance, 250 pixels, and then the last one 100 pixels. So let's see the output. Refresh. Okay. Actually, we can't see the last one, and that's because you don't have enough content or enough grid items to occupy the last grid row that we have. But anyways, to get rid of the unused space, we have to make the last part 1FR, because if you look at our design, the second track here along the horizontal axis is occupying the unused space. It's actually stretching to take up the unused space that we have in the grid container, if that makes sense. So back to the design on the browser. If I refresh now, okay, so we have this. Now this is where we need to start calculating the grid lines that we have. Obviously, you should know the grid lines rules that we have now. So grid line rules that we have is the number of rows plus 1, which is 4, right? So grid line rows is 4 right now because we have 3 rows, 1, 2, and then the last row that we have here. So grid line row 1, 2, 3, and then 4, the last one. Then for our columns, we have 2 columns, right? So which means you're going to have three lines in total. The first line along the vertical axis, the second line along the vertical axis, and then the last one along the what's it called, the vertical axis. Great. Now we actually want this header to take the full width, okay, of the first track along the horizontal axis. And what do we need, or how do we do that? So let's take it back to our browser. What do we have now? So it is this header. We actually want this header to take this line, and the entire of the first track along the horizontal axis. And to do that, all we need to do is to set the grid column of this header to 1/3. So how do I know that? Because this is 1, the grid line column 1, this is 2, and then this is 3. So I want it to start from 1 and then end at 3. So in case if you are confused, you can always open up your developer tool to identify the number. So if you open up the developer tool, ensure you select the actual grid container, which is this section here with the class of container, and click on this grid badge here. So great. So you see 1, 2, and then we have 3 actually. So I will set it to 1/3. That's header. So header, grid column. The grid column is going to be 1/3. Save. If I refresh, great. Now header is now taking the entire track along the horizontal, the first track along the horizontal axis. So then I think we are even done actually. I think we are done. The next thing we just need to do now is what's it called? This footer here. Footer, to stretch it. Right, and to do that, very simple. You have to identify the footer, and then The same thing, grade column 1 by 3, because it's still the same grid line, right? 1, then this is 3 basically. So refresh, and then we have it. So I think the only thing we need to do now is to create gap, because the original line we have gaps, right? So you can use gap on the container, which is the grid container, right? So you can see gap of 12 pixels. If that's not much, gap, great. So I think we are now free to remove the background color. Even though it wasn't needed, at the end there was no use. Save. Okay, great. Yeah, that's all actually. The only thing that we just need to do to make it look closer to what we have right here is to pad the container actually, because of this space we have inside the box, right? So you can pad the container by giving it maybe padding of pad it and say maybe 18 pixels. The pixels should do it. Yeah. And then I think there is a border radius that is going on around on each of the components here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the group selector because I don't repeat myself. So in that way, I will have to set border radius on the header, border radius on the side as well, border radius on this, and then on footer. So to save up time or not repeat myself, I can use the group selector by using comma, then side, comma, main, comma, then footer, comma, then. So whatever style that you specify inside this declaration block will get applied to all these 4 elements. So since they have the same border radius in common, I can just group them together and then specify the value here. Say 12 pixels, save, refresh, and then we have it. I think the only thing is just push the content to the center, which is we can do that on the container so that all the child elements will inherit the value. So align items, center, save, and then create. Simple, right? So that's that. I'm going to give us these other assignments. I plan to do it together with us, but I want us to work on it. So almost the same thing. The only thing is just that we went ahead and we divided the main section into 4. This main part here, this main here, we only have 1 card here, and then if you look at the second layout, it becomes 4 cards actually. Content 1, content 2, content 3, content 4. So more like in the video 1, video 2, video 3, video 4 on YouTube. All right.